Hi, Charlie. How are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, Charlie and I, for the listeners, Charlie and I are meeting for the first time, which you guys know is my favorite way to do a podcast because I approach it with all of the curiosity of a listener who may not know Charlie Price, in a personal, intimate way. So, I'm really excited about this. And I'm in Los Angeles where it's raining cats and dogs. Charlie is in Denver, Colorado, where it's beautiful. And I'm excited to have this conversation. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you, Charlie. You have one of those bios that, we can spend the first half hour with me embarrassing you with all the different things that you have on your bio. So I'm going to try to cut it down to just the essence so the listeners get an idea of how many things that you've done and who you are. You're a hairdresser based out of Denver, Colorado. You've trained under some of the industry's greats. Runway masters like Guido, Sergei Normant, Eugene Suleiman. You've done fashion shows all over the world for some of the best fashion labels in the world, Europe, New York City. I don't need to go into all the different fashion labels. You lead hairstylist at New York Fashion Week for many, many designers. You've had, actually, I'm going to quiz you. I'm going to trivia you on yourself. How many NAHA nominations have you had, Charlie?
The last time I counted was 27, but it was a while ago, so I don't remember anymore.
Okay, well, all I know is that you've had 27 nominations, so maybe more. Maybe you stopped counting and you stopped updating your own bio.
Yeah, I don't enter anymore, so it's been a few years since I've thought about it.
There you go. Well, that's kind of interesting. I'm curious about that. We'll get into that. But you've had a
Okay.
lot of NAHA nominations. You've had a lot of awards where you've won Hairstylist of the Year award multiple times, Team of the Year, People's Choice Award. You've won a Hairbrained Video Award. You've won a Canadian Mirror Award, International Hairstylist of the Year, where you were nominated 6 times. And you've founded many things. You founded the Beauty Underground magazine. You founded some award shows yourself, the Southwest Hairstylist Award and the Hair USA Awards. And now you offer your own brand of education, specialty workshops, classes, and seminars that you offer independently through charliepricehair.com. So did that embarrass you too much?
No, it was good. Thank you. Makes me sound
You're
very
welcome.
important.
Of course. So one of the first things I want to ask you about, you call yourself a hair activist and a contrarian. So please tell us, what do you mean by those two terms?
Well, I just, have been a hair educator for so many years that at this point, and I was on a reality show as the villain. I was the least memorable villain on Shear Genius because Tabitha was the most memorable, so people may or may not remember me. But as an educator, I try to do things, I've always done this since the beginning, try to do things that are different. So rather than be like the Pollyanna, I'm spreading whatever product company you insert their name and then love after it, or my hair fam or whatever. I'm more like, I want to be in a hair death cult. So, and I also can't be controlled. I can't work for corporations because I don't do what people tell me to do. That's why I'm a hairdresser. So I'm very rebellious and impossible to deal with. So that's why I'm a hair activist and a contrarian. I only represent the hairdressing industry. I represent anything else but us as artists.
That's extremely interesting, of course, because so much of the industry in probably, with the goal of achieving some sort of, financial stability, career stability, professional stability, want to align with a product manufacturer, right, that gives them that kind of stability. And so most of the people that I interview, on the show, we've been doing this 6 years or more, every week. And most people who have achieved a high profile in the industry have done so by aligning with kind of a larger entity. So I know that you've worked for companies. So tell us
Yes.
about the experience that you've had with them.
Yeah. When I'm defining who I am now, it's just based on my career trajectory, and my path now is different than or different than who I was. I loved working for product companies, and I think everybody should for a while. What I don't think is that you should end up being a corporate drone for your whole entire life. So that's why I'm not entering Naha anymore. That's why I don't want to be an award whore. I don't want to be one of those old, out to pasture, over the hill educators that can't exist outside of that product company that we've associated with them for 15 million years, which there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not, when I say that, I'm just saying I can't do it. There's a lot of my very dearest friends and people that I admire the most work for companies and have been doing that forever. I can't do it. So I think that everyone should work for manufacturer. Like I said, I worked with Aveda. That was my initial one that got me to New York Fashion Week and took me to Milan and gave me my first class airfare to Europe and all this stuff. I loved it. I drank the Kool-Aid. I was a cult member, you know, green tea enemas, whatever horse told me to do within reason, I would do. You know, so, you know, we won't get into that, but,
We won't get into green tea enemas.
yeah,
I
well,
was
I mean, we
hoping, I
can.
actually had
We
that
can,
on
we
my
can.
list of questions.
Whatever. So, but just now, though, you know, once I got on the reality show, that was sort of like an inflection point and a Rubicon. And once I, you know, said the F word a million times on national TV, you know, and was the villain and had a gigantic flower on my shoulder, you know, whatever. It's just sort of like, I'm never going to go back to the, gee golly, gee willikers, I love this product company person. That's like, I can't go back there.
Interesting. Okay, so the demon's been let out of the bag,
Yeah.
and did they beep you out or bleep you out? I'm curious.
I don't remember. I mean, it was cable, it was Bravo, so I don't know if I can't remember if they bleep us out or not. It's been so long. I mean, that's like the 1920s now. But to me, they certainly loved us cussing. See, this was back when the fighting was the best part of reality shows. And I mean, I guess
Oh
it
yeah,
still is for some, you
I
know,
would
the
think
Real
so.
Housewives. But there's becoming a reckoning on that too, you know. So
Okay.
that's,
Well,
you know, they would love the worse we could be, the more they loved it. I was just careful that I knew that whatever I did on that show would be stuck to me forever, like a trail of sewage. Since I can't say cuss words here, or I don't know if I can.
of course you can.
Okay. I told
Yeah.
my friends whatever we do on this show will be like shit on our shoe that we can't get off for the rest of our lives. So make sure what you're doing on this show is something you're committed to.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. Okay. So you feel committed to leaning into who you are and what you feel, and that's taken you in kind of an independent direction, it sounds like. But I want to start, we talked to, you mentioned the word trajectory. I want to start with the beginning of your trajectory. I mean, why this industry to begin with? Where are you from originally, and how did you get into this industry?
I'm from Denver. Still live in Denver. Haven't ever lived anywhere else but Denver, but I feel like I have. So my goal when I was in high school, I went to beauty school in high school for a vocational program because I wanted to become a famous painter like Julian Schnabel or Jean-Michel Basquiat or Frida Kahlo or Helen Frankenthaler or something. So I thought I can't be a waiter, and I'm not confident enough with my body to do porn. So I've got to have something to get me through. But I've gotten better, but I'm still not. Yeah. I don't think I can have my own. Not ready for my OnlyFans yet. But so I thought I got to do hair because I've always wanted to do it and I loved it, and I can do that forever and have a way to make money as I pursue art. But then once I got out of beauty school, I didn't have enough money and I didn't really want to go right to New York. So I thought, let me work for a year before I go to school. And then I just never went because it was like 1988 and hairdressers were making $125,000 and coked out of their minds and sexy and hot and fun and everything. And so I just wanted to do that. I did not, it's weird. Anybody who knows me, I don't do drugs, but I love to drink. And I did not drink at all then. Like I didn't drink until I was 28. So I don't know what that was about. But so I just witnessed them doing this and loved the wild, crazy, hairdresser lifestyle and all the money and the fun. It was just fun. I loved it because it's fun. And I
All
wasn't
right.
used to being around rich people either, rich people like that had private jets and, diamond rings, like gigantic, whatever. So it was, dazzling. And so I just didn't go to beauty school. Or, I mean, I didn't go to art school. I stopped at beauty school.
Got it. Okay. So, but I'm sure you've still got the passion for art in you, which drives a
Yes.
lot of your career in the beauty industry, which is always a connection that, of course, I try to make as somebody who's getting to know somebody for the first time. And I think it's so clear for any listeners who don't know Charlie yet. Go to his Instagram account. I mean, it is art. It's you're looking at it and you're like, is that hair? Is that more hair? Or is that more art? And it's obviously it's both. But relative to others in the hair industry, I would say that it's more art. And so it's the pieces are falling into place pretty well with your story, and it's fascinating, and I want to keep going. So you finish hair school, and where do you go? What do you do?
Yeah. So I became an assistant, which I think everyone should do. It doesn't matter if I started doing it in 1988, working, that's when I got out of school and got my license. And I think it's the same story right now because it actually was weird. It was a pretty similar environment then with everybody doing booth rental. And I don't know, they didn't have, the suites didn't exist in the way they do now, but there was a lot of booth rent when I got out of school. And it was very important to me to get training. And so I got training two places from the salon I worked at and all the manufacturers that we had at the time, which was like Rusk and Aveda and TG. Those were my three favorites. And so, but I went to any class, Matrix, whatever was around. I went to every single manufacturer's classes. So I always say to people now, when you get out of beauty school, you should definitely go work for somebody for at least a year. I was an assistant for 2 years. In that 2 years, I was doing color and perms and relaxers, working on black hair, Jewish hair, Latina hair, Asian hair. I worked for a white lady, a black guy, and a Latino guy, and they trained me on everything. And while I don't have tons of black clients right now, I work on tons of black models and love doing black hair, love doing wigs, worked on extensions then. So I had a pretty good layered background to start with, and then working with the product companies led me to be an educator. I selected Aveda. I went for the first time and met Horst right out of beauty school. And back when at the academy in Minneapolis, when we would go for advanced trainings, he would come around and ask everybody where we were from and talk to us. I remember when when I became an educator, he would bring us into rooms in the different parts of the academy and just talk to us about things. Like one time he had just come back from the worldwide summit that he'd been on about the environment with Gorbachev, where they created, corporate practices for environmentalism after the Exxon Valdez oil spill, which was just crazy. So the reason I bring that up is because Horst taught me, among other people, the possibilities as a hairdresser that anything goes, because he started as a crazy drug addicted hairdresser and then was leading the world in environmental practices for companies. So even though I didn't want to do all the things that he did, it was an amazing experience to have proximity to his greatness in that way. So then the other thing that happened, so I got my training, I worked with Aveda, and then locally, the guys that I worked with were really hooked into a lot of the nice stores in town, and we did really amazing fashion shows. One of the first major fashion shows I did was for Gianfranco Ferré, who was an Italian couturier who was the first ever non-French person to work for Dior, and we did a show with him in Aspen in the 80s. And I did actually makeup for that show, not hair, because they didn't have enough makeup artists, and I loved doing makeup. So I've been doing makeup for 38 years as well. And so that got me hooked on the fashion shows. And when the mall came to Denver, the big fancy mall that we still have, I worked with all the big stores
Is
and
that
got
Cherry
to,
Creek Mall?
yes, they keep making it better. So it's, it's still, busy. They have Hermes and whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we've done, I got to do a lot of shows then, and I just got more and more and more into educating with Aveda, more and more into fashion shows, more and more into doing photo work. Cause I had my first portfolio in beauty school that I did with my point and shoot camera with my sister and my cousin in the basement, laying them on the floor with blankets and stuff and clown white on their face and whatever.
Yeah.
Those things, those were the things that I loved then, and I still love to this day. Doing photo shoots was one of the main reasons I wanted to get into it. I loved going to the salon with my parents and looking at the photo books. So I did all of that, just consistently, and stayed with Aveda. Did everything I could do there. I went to the top of what was available to 99.9% of the people at Aveda, without
Yep.
doing what Antoinette does. And, I didn't want to hire a hit squad to kill her, even though I've wanted to kill her many times. But even if I
But
did that, they wouldn't have picked me anyway. They would have picked someone from Europe or something. It would be someone from outside the network. You know how that goes. So
don't
I
be so
left.
sure.
Well,
Don't be
it
so
wouldn't have
sure.
been me. It would not have been me. Trust me. Anyway, and not because they didn't like me, but because I'm a pain in the ass and whatever. Yeah, like I said, I just, I'm not as good at, like, people like Antoinette can do everything, the art and the corporate stuff, and I just can't deal with corporate people.
Yeah.
I can't do it. This drives me nuts. I've dealt with every division that they had at Aveda, and even though I loved it, it's just, I find it soul draining.
Yeah. Well, you're not the only one.
Yeah.
Okay. So through this period of time, this part of the story, are you maintaining a clientele
Yes.
in one salon, and you're doing all these things? You're
Yes,
traveling.
yeah. Salon owner, doing New York Fashion Week every season, doing fashion shows and photo shoots in Denver. I was teaching at all the advanced academies for Aveda. I think pretty much every one I taught at. I did a lot with Ray Chavella, who was it's probably my second most important mentor overall. I have many mentors, but I would say Ray would be my number one person. Like, Horst is a mentor in a larger sense. Ray is a much more personal relationship, hands-on mentor. So I worked all over Canada for Ray with Aveda. I worked with the Neil Corporation all over the South. I worked with research and development with Aveda. We worked, like I said, I got to go to Milan with Aveda and work on Prada, Dolce & Gabbana, and stuff like that. And then I took that and went to New York after. And so I would, at one point, I was assisting those fancy hairdressers you mentioned, like Serge Serge Normand or Eugene or Guido, on my own. And then I would work with Aveda. Sometimes I would be the Aveda lead. Sometimes I would be putting money with my salon and co-sponsoring with Aveda. And sometimes the salon would just sponsor by ourselves. So I felt like I lived in New York because we were always there. We were doing so many things with Aveda in New York that it felt like I was living there.
And so I'm thinking about the listeners, and most of our listeners are behind the chair hairstylists, and of course, what you're talking about, this corner of the industry is extremely glamorous and it's high profile and it's great for pictures and all this kind of stuff. But tell us about the economics of it. I mean, do the companies pay a decent amount? Could you have made more money if you just stayed behind the chair?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, there are people that I know that are dear friends of mine that have managed to master that balance of owning a salon, having a high-end clientele, and working for a company, and they make lots of money. But I also think that it's such a level of grind that I don't want that anymore. I did it for a long time, but it's not. And yes, you can make a lot of money just behind the chair, just doing it behind the chair. Because I spent tons of money on those things. I spent more than I made on being an educator and doing fashion shows, but I had to do it for my soul. So if I didn't do that, I would be, I don't know what, I would have probably quit. I can't just be a behind the chair hairdresser. I need the creativity and the stimulation and the excitement and inspiration. So I also, being rich wasn't my goal, more like having the freedom to do what I want to do. So
Hmm.
I just made sure that I had enough to do all that and be able to go to Barney's and get drunk at lunch and buy things I can't afford or pretend I can, whatever,
Yeah.
put it on the
Yeah.
charge card.
Things that you
So
can return, of course, when you
yeah,
get
well,
home.
no, I don't
Yeah.
return them. That's the thing. I still have all this stuff. I'm like, I don't have any. I may die in the gutter, but I'll still have my original Tom Ford 1998 suit when he was for Gucci. I'll die in the gutter wearing Gucci.
Say no more. So you're clearly a restless creative. And so I'm curious, as you go through your career, I mean, you're very young.
No.
You look very young, and I think you act very young. So take that for what it's worth. How do you keep changing, evolving, trending to satisfy that restlessness?
Well, I'm not young. I'm 54. I've been doing this for 38 years. So I've made a lot of mistakes. I've made tons of
For,
mistakes. So I guess the answer to your
for the
question, yeah.
for the record, 54 is not young. You've just been doing this a long time, which is an extraordinary. I'm serious. What an asset to still have so much ahead of you and have all that experience of an much older person.
Okay. Well, that's all relative, I suppose, whatever. But yes, I've been doing it a long time. I started when I was in beauty school when I was 17. So, um, to answer your question, at a certain point, I always was focused though on goals. I would always have, as a teacher, I would always tell people, look, it doesn't matter what your goals are and they can change, but you need 3-month goals, 6-month goals, year goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals, 25-year goals, and then ultimate fantasy goals. And then when I mean, it sounds like this, I don't want this to sound pompous, but I got everything I wanted, which I guess means my goals were very humble. Um, so, and then it was like hard to figure out after the reality show and after I'd done everything that I set out to do. I'm like, oh, what do I do now? I always thought I wanted to be the artistic director of a big company. And now I'm like, oh no, that would just be
That's a
horrible, I
corporate job.
think. Yeah, horrible. So I guess the way that I stay interested is just to focus on the things that make me happy, that I love, which is collaborating with hairdressers I admire and being creative, and trying to support the craft in a way. But I don't own those contests anymore. I thought I gave that up. I turned it over to a group of my former colleagues, and said, take it. I don't want it. We're not getting along. This is like way too Harper Valley PTA. I can't do all these. I cannot deal with the politics. I cannot deal with passive aggressive. I cannot deal with all the details of running all these regional things together as Hair Awards USA. I'm like, goodbye, take it. I gotta
Yeah.
go. I gotta go. And so, also, I just think there's too many awards right now. The only reason I enter awards now is so that if I'm nominated and I go, I can write off a trip. So like that's why we entered the awards in Paris, and it was of course then it ends up that I joined the club that they have, and so now I'm going to be working with them, whatever. But it's
Can't
sort
you
of
just, if you want to go to Paris, can't you just make something up? That's not a good idea to
yes.
the listeners. Okay, that would be tax fraud. I'm just throwing it out there.
No, it's not. If you enter a contest that's for your job and then you're up for an award, you can write that off.
Yeah, but I
You
mean,
can.
whether
You
there's
can.
actually a contest or not, of course you can. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm just saying, you want to go to Madagascar, and there's no contest in Madagascar. Well,
Do a shoot.
you got clients in Madagascar, right?
Yeah, or do a shoot. Well,
Yeah,
I don't
there you go.
lie. I haven't lied about it because I just
Do a
feel like
shoot.
I'd feel like I'd get caught.
Exactly.
So
I'm
I'm
not
not a great
suggesting,
liar. Yeah,
not
I'm not
suggesting
suggesting
otherwise.
fraud. No. And I pay my taxes because I don't want to go to jail.
No, it's very smart to pay your taxes.
Yeah. So it is hard to stay interested for a long time. And then like the other thing about the awards too is that I didn't want to be an award whore. because I started to feel like I was in this group of hairdressers that are known for doing really nothing other than winning awards. And it makes you kind of feel, it makes me from an outsider look at the group and be like, this group is like really into themselves and like all they care about is being like, oh, thank you. I know I'm so great. And I've done this photo shoot again. And I'm like, yeah, it's time to maybe back off that. It's unhealthy. And I started to be very much too wrapped up in like, I don't exist if I don't have a NAHA nomination or something. It's so stupid.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is part of the contrarian part of your
Yeah.
personality, where when something gets a little too common and it's happening too often, at least in your circle of awareness, then you don't want to do it anymore. And there's that restlessness. And so take us to where we are now. Do you have clients? Are you seeing clients behind the chair? What are you spending your time doing?
I am semi-retired from hair behind the chair. I do hair about 2 days a week, and mainly because it hurts my body too much to be too busy. I'm just not that interested. There's no way I could do 5 or 6 days a week. I love my clients dearly, but I don't want to, I don't want to do extensions. I don't want to do balayage. I don't want to do ombre. I don't want to ever do a vivid on a client. So I just want to color rich ladies' gray hair and talk about cable shows. And then all the cool stuff I'll do and we can talk about politics or whatever, and then I can do the fun stuff on models or mannequin heads or wigs for my foot, whatever. So my clientele is extremely limited. I have a salon in my house. I used to have a photo studio that was my dream spot that I did all sorts of stuff out of. Photo shoots, classes, my clients. I had my wardrobe archive there, all this stuff. Other people would rent it and do classes, and then it got shut down, and then COVID happened. It turned in they sold the building, so I ended up making a salon in my house, and that's where I work now. Yeah.
Okay, so the Restless Master. What's next? I mean, okay, give me you talked about the goals with their time frames, and I 100% am with you there. I try to do the same thing. So give us the 5-year goal, or do you still do 5-year goals?
It's harder, much harder, because I don't know. Now I'm more doing year to year now, only because the 5-year goals that I set for myself 3 years ago, I'm like, oh, I don't want to do any of that I thought I did.
That's very honest. And I think a lot of people are probably subject to that same issue.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it has just to do with the amount of work I want to put into stuff. The other thing about those awards that we were running was like I was producing Denver Fashion Week as one of the founders, and that was something I did for fun in my hometown, and I was getting so wrapped up in it, I was working on it all year and then working on the awards all year with these other colleagues from around the country. And I'm like, no, this is just way too much work. I don't want to do that to be a semi-retired person. And it's going to make money. It could make money someday, but I don't want to wait as long as it's going to take for this to start to make money. So now I'm trying to do things that stimulate my creativity, let me be in the industry somewhat, and don't cost me a lot of money or time. So I just joined the Haute Coiffure Français, that club, which is, I guess, sort of like an intercoiffure kind of thing. I liked it just because the people that are associated with it in Paris are hairdressers that I admire a lot, and it's a much smaller deal. So I joined the American team. And then what else am I doing? I still do local fashion shows. I'm producing a show for a ladies' luncheon. It's like 700 women, and they always bring a big designer in. So we did, one year it was Rebecca Minkoff. Last year was Club Monaco. This year it's Lafayette 148. And I don't even do the hair. I just produce the fashion show for that luncheon.
Oh, interesting.
So it's I love the production side. And then what else am I doing? Traveling. I'm doing a lot of photography with my phone because I've spent so much money on photographers. And I love working with photographers, so it's very exciting, but I just can't do that anymore. I can't justify spending, $30,000, $50,000 a year on photography.
That's crazy. And the phones have gotten pretty good.
Yeah, it's fun I'm having so much fun with the AI, and also it's I probably will do a challenge with all my friends because everybody's starting to talk shit about AI. You know, we want it to be pure. And I'm like, this is sort of like the thing with high fashion. If everything is pure and ugly, like if models are all ugly and have zits and cellulite and all the photo shoots are ugly, why would anyone want to look at any of it? So,
Isn't it
I mean,
supposed to be aspirational?
yeah, fantasy. I mean, there's got to be a fantasy.
Yeah.
But I do, I don't want to be you don't want to be a fraud. So that's the balance is like you don't want to be generating. Although Anthony Mostello is just doing all these AI shoots, and we know he can do hair. It's just interesting how people express themselves. But I just love the liberation and creativity of sitting around. Like the shoot I just put up today, I spent all day with old pictures that we shot about 2 or 3 years ago and revamping them into something new with AI. It was super fun.
Really? I did see that today. That's super interesting. Well, I mean, what type of program do you use for that? How do you do that?
I use about 5 different apps when I do this, so nobody can know exactly what I'm doing, and I try to zoom in because I know everybody's, zooming in on everybody and be like, "Oh, that bitch can't cut that line that straight. That shit is not that's not real." So I'm like I try to keep my stuff clean, and there are people who can spook my Photoshop. I know because they're good photographers and we have friends, and they know when I've cloned something or enhanced something here or there, whatever. I don't care though because that's part of the fun of it. It's just making it look it's like Vogue magazine. Do we want to see the unedited? Like if we took all the editing out of Vogue magazine, would we want to look at it? I don't want to look at it. It's just be ugly and bland and boring.
Yeah.
Bad lighting, whatever. I don't care.
Right.
Like
So
rock videos aren't real. Movies aren't real. It's fantasy life. It's fun.
It is.
So,
I mean, real is what we have 99% of the time.
Yeah. But I do want to do a challenge though with all my friends. Like I was saying, I did cut off the track. I want to do one where we do a challenge of like, this is a raw shoot where I've done absolutely nothing to the photo. That's hard. That's hard. It's fun. It's a little scary.
That's contrarian.
It's like having to show your genitals to everybody at the hot tub. How confident are you?
I don't know if that's contrarian or not because that happens pretty often.
Oh, for you, I guess you must be very.
You want to hear about my gym?
I want to hear about everybody's genitals. When people
no,
are
I said, do you want to hear about my gym?
Oh no.
Well, you know what? Interesting. I want to hear about everybody's genitals. Yeah, I wonder if there's a podcast. I'm sure there's a podcast about it.
That's contrarian. When people are like, "Don't send me any dick pics," I'm like, "Send them all to me. I'll look at everything. I'll look at boobs. I'll look at butts. I'll look at vagina. Whatever. Send it all. I'll look at all of it."
Well, that's what OnlyFans is for. You said earlier that you're not ready for OnlyFans. I don't know. Maybe your fans are.
Well, if anybody reaches out after this, well, I'll consider it.
There you go. That's the invitation, audience. Okay, so I'm super curious. I'm looking behind you. And Charlie, for those of you who are just listening to this, Charlie has a piece of art behind him. And I'm curious, is that yours?
No, I wish. No, it's a woman who was my client in the 90s, great painter. Her name is Kalani Ingalls. She's shown at Art Basel a lot, and I think she was at the Venice Biennale, whatever. But I traded out with her for 2 paintings in the mid 90s, and that's one of my favorite paintings. And that's when I do these things, I like to look. I'm also a frustrated interior designer, I guess. My husband and I, we love to look at homes. All the real estate agents hate me in town because I fill out all these things as if I'm going to buy a house because I just want to see the houses, and then we're not buying a house. So, but
doesn't the internet help with that? I mean, Redfin.
Yeah, but they won't show you anything unless you fill out all the paperwork or when you're buying a home.
Pictures.
No, a lot of them they won't let you see one picture of the outside. Like on Facebook, They send you 1 million, or Instagram, whatever. You click on it, and you have to fill out information to be able to see the photos.
Oh, I haven't noticed that.
Yeah. But I'm like the nosy person who'll go to an open house and have absolutely no intention of buying it. I just want to see the house.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure I'm sure you're not the only one.
That's right.
So don't feel bad. Not like you do.
No, I don't.
Okay, so restless artist, contrarian. You, I imagine that you've got a room in your place where you are creating art. I mean, going back to your, initial dream. No.
Yeah. I don't have a room dedicated to art. I I draw wherever I can. I haven't been drawing that much. Most of the creativity is on my phone, and I sit in bed and watch the news or have white noise or whatever, and I edit photos on my phone, and that's my creativity. I do sketch for photo shoots, but I did have a piece in a show recently, an art show, and I do want to do more art. One of the main reasons I don't want to create art is I don't have to store it. We downsized to a townhouse, and it's like we're maxed out on storage right now. So, and I can't handle clutter. Clutter is like I
Okay.
like to watch hoarders to feel good about myself, so that I can say how horrible. Can you imagine living like that?
Those are contrarian sort of elements in your personality. You
Yeah.
want to create prolifically, but you don't want to store.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, I
I
would.
understand.
It's not that I don't want to. I just don't have anywhere to put it.
No, understood. But maybe you have a client who would be more than happy to store on some of her empty walls.
Maybe I could look into it.
What keeps you up at night these days? Does anything keep you up at night?
What keeps me up at night is wondering if I'm going to live in a fascist country and starting in February or whenever they're inaugurated next time. Um, Death keeps me up because my mother just died and I'm in my mid 50s now.
Oh,
So I think, like most old people, I think about death.
you're
Um,
not old. Oh my God, you're 54. You're like halfway. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
yeah, depending on who you ask, maybe
How
not
many
even.
100-year-olds do you know?
I know a couple. I know two.
Uh-huh.
I do. I do. Seriously. I have
And when they say
one.
we're,
I've one guy. Well, hold on. I'm taking creative liberty. He's like 98, but he walks up and down my street. I have a lot of older people on my street, and he shuffles up and down my street multiple times per day, and he's an inspiration to my family and kids. And it's phenomenal. My dad is 89, and
wow,
he's
that's
doing
good.
great. He's doing
Yeah.
great. I mean, you're
Well,
not even.
no, I mean, I'm not worried that I'm going to die right this second. It's just on my mind,
Okay,
you know? Not like I
that's
can
fair.
control it anyway, you know?
Of course,
We can't
of
control
course.
that. But what else keeps me up at night? Yeah, that's it. Probably, oh, I need to exercise more. Oh, I need to save more money. The usual
Okay,
stuff.
the usual stuff. All
Yeah.
right, give me something that you've not done in your career that you would still like to.
Not done in my career. Well, it's probably more like just people I'd like to collaborate with. I don't know if it's like
Okay.
anything I haven't done. I kind of,
Who?
oh, well, who would I want to collaborate that I haven't?
Yeah.
Anthony Muscullo, I would love to collaborate with. I'd like to collaborate with Robert Lobetta again. There's photographers. There's a French guy, Christopher Gallet, that is part of this French thing that I want to work with. He does photography.
Hmm.
There's a bunch of photographers that are hairdressers in. Desmond Murray is one out of London that I love his photography and his hair
Okay.
dressing. I'd love to collaborate with who else? I don't know. There's so many people.
Do these guys know that you want to collaborate with them?
Uh, Robert would probably not be surprised, but we've collaborated. He once said to me, "I'll probably work with Charlie once or twice again, maybe." So we'll see with that. I
Yeah.
don't know. Anthony Muscullo, I see him every year at the alternative hair show, and I just saw him at the last one. So I don't know. I don't know if specifically he knows that I want to collaborate with him, but I don't even know if he's doing that anymore. He's more interested in like running his magazine. Oh, I know another one, Damien Carney. We've been talking about doing something forever. I want to work with the photographer who I've worked with before, who was the guy that used to do all the stuff for Modern Salon, and maybe he still does. Roberto Agresti. He's moved to California, and I love the stuff he's doing with all the. He's doing really beautiful high fashion, but with really good hair stuff. I don't know. That's just a few. There's a million more that I'd love to work with. I said all
Maybe you
men.
should.
That sounds like I'm only interested in working with men. That's not right. I should think of some women I want to work with. I've always wanted to do something with Vivian McKinder. I think we would have fun. Um, I always love working with Ruth Roach. We've done a bunch of stuff, and I haven't worked with her in a while, so I'd like to work with her again. Uh, I don't know. There's so many. I could probably name 30 people, so I'll just stop.
Sounds like you should reach out to some of them.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Tell me something that you did in your career that you wish you hadn't done. I don't. There isn't. No. Oh, probably opened my second salon when we downsized the way it was with partners. I should have just done it with my sister, and that was it. Because you had conflicts.
No, I shouldn't say really close. I still talk to the people that I was there with, but I just had a different concept of what I wanted the place to be. And I kind of knew that they weren't interested in the same things I was. And, probably we should have cut ties when we closed the big one down because it just sort of, the relationships deteriorated and the salon just sort of like trailed off. And
Different visions.
I ended up leaving, didn't re-sign the lease, and some people were upset with me.
Yeah.
But it's not a big regret. I mean,
Yeah.
it it's what you know.
It's a learning lesson, right?
Yeah, yeah.
What's the most difficult conversation that you've ever had with a client behind the chair?
Oh, well, I had a lot of them. If there was one, it was just a woman who was telling me about just being really nasty about gay people, and it was when I was in my house, and I knew she had a gun in her purse because she's a
What?
crazy gun lady.
Oh my God.
And she wasn't going to
Hold
shoot
on.
me.
Is that, well, of course not, but is this somebody that you knew for a while?
Yeah, and somebody that I'm incredibly on the opposite spectrum of politics than her. And I
Clearly.
knew that, and she kept saying we were friends, and we weren't friends. And then she was saying nasty things about gay people, and I screamed her out of my house. So
Yeah,
that was felt really good,
I
but I was
bet.
also a little scary because I'm like, I hope she doesn't come back and shoot me.
Wow.
Yeah, she actually
That's
showed me.
horrible.
I said, I can't believe you've been bringing a gun into my house every time you come over here. And she's like, Oh yeah, do you want to see it? And she got it out. That wasn't the same day that we got in a fight, of course, but
That would have been a little risky.
yeah.
Oh God. Okay, that's horrible. I'm sorry I asked that question.
Oh no, it's fine.
Do you have any hair horror stories? Like
Oh,
behind the chair, on
mm.
stage, in a
I
fashion
don't
show?
luckily think. Oh well, yeah. My one on stage. I don't have anything really on stage that was that bad. The only thing I did on stage that was terrible was the first time I was on stage with Ruth Roach. We were so excited that she has a different. We didn't rehearse, and she has a very specific way of being on stage, and so do I. And before she's going to say something, she'll let there be a little bit of silence, and then she starts talking. And I got nervous, so I just kept talking and kind of like almost like interrupting her.
Hmm.
And it was like ridiculous, and I felt so stupid. I'm like, oh my god. She probably thinks I'm mansplaining the shit out of her or something, or whatever. I don't even know if gay men can mansplain. We gay-splain. We were gay-splaining her. I don't know, but it was not my finest hour as a co-presenter. But our work was great, and we had fun together. She probably wanted to kill me when we got off stage. Um, and then
Does she understand though that she's prone to awkward silences?
it's not awkward. I just didn't know.
Okay.
I never talked to her about, oh, how do you do this? What's the rhythm? Should we do a little
Right.
practice dance? So I just was nervous talking my head off,
Hmm.
which was just dumb. And it took me a long time to figure it out.
That's really funny. I have to say, I mean that's a new one for the hair horror story, and I like that because we have so many bleaching disasters, hair falling out, et cetera, burnt scalps. I like that one.
Now, thank goodness I haven't had anything bad at a hair show, but in the salon, back in the day, I burnt somebody's head with one of those enzyme developers. Luckily, it was my friend. And then I also put dark burgundy in one of my blonde clients' hair by accident once. That was fun. I had to do her hair for 6 months till it wasn't orange anymore. Because you can't really get it all out once it's in there. And then I don't know, that's about it. And then at a fashion show, we did a whole bunch of amazing sculpture, like hair pieces for this show. And then I realized that I had never spent any time with my team to show them what I wanted them to do to attach it, like to cover the girl's real hair. So we had to do this like triage situation right before they were getting ready to line up because I didn't tell anybody how to do it. Oh my God, it was like I didn't know if we were going to get through it, but we did, and it was amazing. But it was I had to go to the bathroom and get my shit together because I was like panicking.
You had to go to the bathroom before fixing it or after?
Yeah, no, I
fixing
had to
it?
just excuse myself for a second to gather myself. Just to be like, okay, let me think about this for 2 minutes without anybody asking me a question so I can figure out how we're going to do this. And then
But you performed. You
and then,
got
no,
it
we
done.
did it. Yeah. And then everybody's like, that was the coolest part of Fashion Week, that. I was like, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Right. The coolest part for you. Any last words for the community?
When asked what I want to say to the hair community, that's such a huge thing. I would say in this world of social media, I think find your own voice. Don't use the lingo that everybody uses. It's like everybody has to use the same vibe and I don't know. I just got same lingo. It's like you're, and I know that it's offered by social media and that's why it happens because it prompts you to use those same words. Don't use your own words.
Absolutely. And no one better than you to deliver that message. We've said it so many times in the show. You almost, I don't want to say it again, but that part of your personality that wants to do things differently. Hopefully that inspires the listeners to think the same way. And I mean, that's where real creative satisfaction comes from when you think of something new and that at least when I think of something new and I get most excited about that kind of stuff versus copying something that somebody else did that I like.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So people can find you, Charlie Price, at Charlie Price Hair on the IG. And yes. Is it charliepricehair.com on the web?
Yes.
Internet? Okay. There you go. You got all your stuff on there. We didn't even talk about you do classes too. We didn't even.
Yeah, I don't teach as much as I used to, but I still will, yes.
Okay.
And
so it's all on your website?
My menu is on the website, yes.
Check them out, everybody. Thank you so much, Charlie. It was awesome.
Thank you. It was fun. See you later.